hydration bladders or water bottles? Which is the best to use on your hikes? Now, I've been hiking for a number of years. My conclusion is it's not a one-size-fits-all situation. For me, it's a hybrid system. Now, I've got my water bottle here on my shoulder harness, and I've also got a water bottle here. But as you can see, the normal problem with this water bottle on the back is you can't reach the damn thing. That's the problem. Now, with that water bottle on the back and the one at the front, when I stop, I can transfer water from that one to my front one here, which I can get out of readily. With the bladder and the two water bottles, I usually drink the bladder first. So then when that's empty, I'm on to my other water bottles. You can't regulate how much you drink because you can't see the bladder behind you in your pack. With the tube running from the bladder across your shoulder to your mouthpiece, in hot weather the water can get hot in the tube if you don't drink as often, but when you do drink, you can blow back the water through the tube back into the bladder, and that clears the majority of water in the tube. You can get an insulator for the tube as well, which is also effective in cold weather to a certain degree. If it's extremely cold, I don't think I would bother to use the bladder, but I've never been in many circumstances like that anyway. So yeah, that's one problem with the bladder. But I have read somewhere or other that warm water is better for rehydrating than really cold water, as I say, so maybe that's not an issue anyway. Another distinct advantage with water bottles is at the end of the day, when you get to camp, it's a real pain trying to cook with a bladder or drink when you're at camp, because you can either keep going back to your pack. You take it out of the pack and you've got to try and get it out of the bite valve or disconnect that and use it out the mouth of the bladder, which is really inconvenient. So bottles are a lot better at camp, in my opinion. I carry a bee-free water filter in my pack, and you can put filtered water into the bladder as well, which I do when I start off the next day, but it's still a lot easier using water bottles when you're at camp. And the big downside of bladders, I suppose, is cleaning. That can be a problem, but I don't think you need to clean them as much as you think you do. As long as you're using them reasonably regularly, I don't think you need to keep cleaning them. The main thing is to rinse them out and dry them. Drying is the key thing. So you can put a peg in the neck of the bladder and dry it that way, or stick it on a broomstick, keep the filler open and dry it. That's the main thing. You can dry it with a hairdryer. When I ever clean mine, I just fill it up with the Milton, the baby's cleaning solution. Fill it up with that, give it a shake out. That seems to get everything out of it. I have heard of people storing the bladder in a freezer when they've dried it out. That could work, I guess. I'm not sure what the long-term consequences of keep freezing your plastic bladder would be in the long term, so I'm not too sure about that one. You don't want to put hydrolyte solutions in there with your water, because it's got a lot of sugar in those hydrolyte drinks, and they're not good. They start the sugar, if that's not cleaned out properly, that can start mold forming, particularly in the tubes. So yeah, you should avoid that. I don't do that anyway. I don't even put hydrolytes in my water bottles. If I'm going to use hydrolytes, I use them at the end of the day out of a drinking cup. Now, people have criticised the bladder because of the taste in the tubes when you're drinking out of it. When I first got the bladder, I think I saw somewhere, that's what got me onto it anyway, on YouTube somewhere. I got some lemon juice and some quite, you know, not boiling hot water, but reasonably hot water, and soaked that in it overnight in the fridge, and I never had a problem after that. So that's one way of doing it. The main reason I take a solid water bottle is the plastic ones can get damaged, and also if it's quite cold at night, you can fill this up with hot water and put it in your sleeping bag before you get in there to warm it up. So that's another good thing with those. I'm showing you this on this day pack, and even on my larger pack. Even though the water bottle holders are slanted on the sides, I still find it really awkward to reach back and get it. That's why with a bladder, you're more inclined to take sips and drink more than if you can't get at the water bottle. That's obviously why this one's at the front, so you can drink frequently. The other thing with a bladder is you really have to put it in your pack first before you start packing your stuff. It's really, if you got a full pack and you're really jamming the gear in there, it's very hard to get the bladder in afterwards. I've taken the pack off to show you the bladder I have. It's a 3 litre Osprey, which I find is the best bladder. Now it's going to go in the pack like that, so you've got the hard rigid section of the bladder, which keeps it rigid to go into your pack, is towards your back, and you're going to slide that into your pack like that. Here's the bladder here. It's a 3 litre bladder, as I say. It shows you the maximum mark on the top for the 3 litres, and as you can see, it's quite bulky, and when you press against it like that with a full 3 litres of water in it, it's forcing the water up to the top here, actually forcing it up through the tube to the top when you've got it full up. So what I do is I don't use it full up. So I think that's where you have the problems leaking. It did leak in my pack once, and I think that was the reason. I just had it too full. Now when I have the bottle on the side and the shoulder harness bottle, as I showed you, I certainly don't need this up to 3 litres. I usually put round about 1.5 to 2 litres in this bladder, and I'll show you what that looks like when I've only got that in there. So I've taken a litre of water out the bladder. Now I've only got 2 litres in the bladder, and as you can see, there's no pressure on the bladder now, because no matter how tight you press it, it's not forcing the water. It's well contained within the bladder itself. Some people lay the bladder flat inside the pack on top of the contents, just laying it flat like that, and then running the hose out down the shoulder straps, which I guess is another way of doing it. Obviously the Camelbacks, where they have the plastic middle to them where you fill up with water, they would probably work better that way. But obviously then I suppose you can unclip the top of your pack and check your water. To me, that seems like a bit more precarious way of doing it, because then if you do have any problems at all, everything in the pack's going to get wet. I use the bladder plus these 2 bottles. That's my kit I use on my multi-day hikes. Obviously I'm not going to bring all these out on a day hike normally. For me, it's a hybrid system. The bladder is slightly more problematical, I would say, than the water bottles, but in combination they work well for me. Okay, give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.